All right, Ian, we got a Patreon, don't we?
Patreon.com/CU podcast. You go, you put in some monies, you get stuff in returns, you get writings, you get hangouts, you get the full video podcast, and you get these Q&A poll topics.
All you do, Ian. And we love the Q&As. All right. In first place, in second place. Arcade games that you cannot beat as a child that others could, 44%. We're getting closer splits on these two-way races. I like this. And then in first place, 56%, games that remind you of a dark time in your life.
So I don't actually have a lot, but I have one good example. I don't have a lot of games. I'm sure that there were games that I turned to in my youth when things were going poorly. That probably had a negative connotation for a while, but I've outgrown a lot of it. There's not a lot that I can't play. There's not a lot of music I can't go back to because I associate it with a bad time. But the ColecoVision is a system that I cannot play anymore. I think I might finally be getting to the point where maybe I could give it a shot, but I abandoned the ColecoVision for a long, long time because of it reminding me of a certain event. Basically, this is actually more recent in my life, not like super recent, but this is in my adult life. This happened during the time I was living in San Diego. I was working at Luna Video Games, and I'd wanted a ColecoVision for a while, and I got one, and I took it home. And that night was really like the beginning of the end for me and my ex-girlfriend, who I was dating.
The one you dated when I first moved here? Or just about?
I don't think I was dating anyone officially when you first moved here.
Or okay, before
maybe.
That.
So that was when our relationship started to fall apart, and it wasn't pretty.
Was it quick? Was it a quick descent?
It was a little dragged out.
Okay.
Is
that bad when you know it's going to end, but it's like you're not at the end yet?
Yeah.
You know it's going to be done?
And I still talk to this person from time to time, and we're on, speaking terms and whatnot, but it was not a particularly great moment for either of us. And I associate it with the ColecoVision, like I said, specifically because I remember bringing it home and then that night getting into an argument about something completely unrelated to the ColecoVision. And my only memory of really playing the ColecoVision as an adult, as a person who had one, was during this period of time where our relationship was falling apart. So after I moved out and moved into my apartment, I no longer had the same amount of roommates that I usually had. Rent was higher. I was going through a couple things to sell, to get rid of, and I looked at the ColecoVision, and it was the easiest thing I had ever gotten rid of. And it's a shame because I do like the ColecoVision. I like the games on the ColecoVision. I think it's an interesting system. But yeah, I just haven't really. The few times that a ColecoVision has come back into Luna, and I've gone, do I want this? I'm like, and then I start thinking about what a pain in the ass that time was. I'm like, no, someone else can buy it. So yeah, that's the weird one for me.
But Ladybug is so pure.
Ladybug's a great game.
Fills your heart. Mousetrap, Ian. Carnival.
It's a good system.
Not to go off on how much I love the ColecoVision tangent.
Oh, looks like Tommy is threatening to send a legal team after ours. Keep going.
Oh, what? Is that breaking while we're on Twitter?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's going to work out. Wow, I got thrown off there.
Someone just DM'd me and said that it looks like Tommy's trying, but I don't see any proof of that.
Okay. I'll cut that from the audio podcast. All right. So this, unfortunately, is tied to something that I really haven't brought up before on the podcast. My fraternity stuff. I haven't made a lot of mistakes that in my life that I really, really regret. Joining a fraternity is probably number one of my life regrets, where I'm like, yeah, that was stupid. That was dumb. And it's not like joining a fraternity was all bad. I did make a couple of friends. My roommate was roommate freshman year. But then we joined a fraternity. Rocco, who was a swimmer. I haven't kept up with him, but he was always a nice guy. A few other people. For the most part, 90% of the people in my fraternity were fucking scumbags. And people I would not say hi to if I saw them today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. I could only...
Maybe not 90, 80%. It's like 4 out of 5, I'd be like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't give a shit if we spent years together in the same fucking house. I don't fucking care. So the games I always associate with, unfortunately, are games I enjoy. Unreal. came out like early my freshman year of college. Talked about how at college, we had the T1 landlines. It was the Wild West of the internet. Napster was,
The
free
wild
and clear.
T1 landlines. Napster,
98?
The Wild West.
That was like
No, I know.
beyond cutting edge. In 98, people still had 56K modems. And we had our where is and we shared, we had the shared porn and games and music. For some reason, they allowed a network to, on our floor. Where is? Yeah, where? We had the
Juarez.
Juarez. Pat might have had a Juarez server on IRC. Who knows?
I mispronounced it many throughout my youth.
So that was the Wild West. So of course we all got Unreal and played Unreal. Imagine before this, like not having first. I mean, most people hadn't played probably a first person shooter over the internet before '98. At least being this solid. I remember trying to play Duke Nukem 3D or Doom, and it was okay on the 56K modem. It wasn't great. It was okay. You could play it. But on a T1 landline, you're connected up, 8 guys playing Unreal, like 4-on-4. Holy shit, was that fun. We'd play for hours sometimes. So that reminds me that because that's when I got into it while I was also pledging the fraternity. Pledged the fraternity, what is that, like spring of 2000, what was that, 99, pledged. And there'd be times playing where you get the call. If you're in a fraternity back then, you got the call. And where I went, it was a pretty big fraternity in Greek life school. You get the call from someone at the frat saying, get your ass up here. You have 10 minutes. And then Rocco down the hall would get it. So I had to stop playing the game. You literally had to stop what you're doing. You run up. They did what's called a lineup. What's a lineup, Ian, you ask? A lineup is they line you up. You can't look at any of the brothers' faces. Heads down, hands down. And they just fucking berate you for like 45 minutes straight.
Yeah.
They get in your face. Like they're like wannabe drill sergeant.
I lived above a frat house. I used to have to listen.
Above? They actually had it connected like to a dorm?
So no, it was my apartment. My second apartment was above a storefront, and then behind it was a frat house apartment. It was essentially like
And ours was actually, it was a house.
Yeah, no, not everyone was. Some of them were just large apartments.
Yeah. So they line you up, and they yell at you, they berate you. And it didn't like even if like they like make you make tests about knowledge of the fraternity, who the fuck cares? But they'd be like, oh, you didn't clean this properly. It was just an excuse to yell at you.
Yeah, of course.
Because for the most part, most of us, as when we pledging, weren't fuck ups. We cleaned the house. You're required to clean the house because you have to clean the house when you live there. That's understood. They didn't hire a maid or whatever. Some houses did. So they would yell at you. They make you do push ups and things like that. So whenever I think of Unreal, I think about that. Because sometimes even that was late. They would do that at like 1 a.m. 1 in the fucking morning.
Oh yeah, it would be late.
They would do that. Or if they want to be sadistic, they would call you back right after you got back. Oh, we yelled at you 45 minutes? Come back up. We'll yell at you another 45 minutes. So it's torture. It's psychological torture. They're trying to inflict on you. At this point, I'm like, well, you're kind of stuck with it at that point because they do it in a way where like you have to make yourself, if you pledge, it's understood you have housing at the house, you're no longer eligible then for the regular on-campus housing. You have to try to find your own. So they kind of fuck you. You're kind of forced at that point for the most part, or it becomes a complication. So that's why whenever I think of Unreal, it's like hard to detach from that time because that was awful. Plus, I tore my ACL that spring. So I'm pledging the fraternity on a torn ACL playing intramural basketball as well. So I was like, that was bad. And then it goes into sophomore year. I'll leave the story where I almost died in the fraternity for another time because that's the whole other thing. I don't want to get into that. So sophomore year, it turned into I was depressed, really depressed because I had the surgery. I rehabbed the hell out of it. The guy said I was the best or quickest rehab he ever saw. I rehabbed the hell of it, but I still fell into like being depressed. I hated being in the fraternity. So I only liked like 4, even our pledge class out of like the 13, 14 guys, 15 guys, I liked like 4 of them. Like 4 of them. I'd be like, okay, I can hang out with you and talk to you guys. So I felt like I was like an outcast, and I didn't hide the fact that I didn't like anyone really, especially the seniors and juniors. I didn't like them that much because they just abused you for months. How can you like them after that? A lot of the guys that pledge are like, oh yeah, that's just the way it works. Not me. I'm not like that. You can't break me. That doesn't work with someone like me. It doesn't work. I'll just fucking hate you, and I'll live with you, but I'll hate you. So like it was awkward because when you're sophomore, they can't do anything to you. They can't make you drink anything or hit you or whatever. Not that I don't think I was ever hit. Other houses actually abused, like physically abused. That didn't happen here. But then they made you drink. That's still abuse. So sophomore year, the games I played, I put on like 35, 40 pounds my sophomore year. I ballooned up after the surgery. Not just because of the surgery, I was listless, but I enjoyed playing Rogue Spear. Rainbow Six Rogue Spear, played it on, with some of the sophomores and other, the people like that. And so and Worms Armageddon. So those other games where I'm like, that's where I played a ton of it was, like sophomore year at the frat house. And like that was bad. That like year and a half span of like, last semester, freshman year, and the entire sophomore year, that was bad. From like age 19 to like age 19 to like 20 and a half, we'll just say. That was really bad time in my life. I'll tell more about my fraternity stuff in the future when it's appropriate, but fuck them. Fuck you guys. Fuck them. Yeah. Whenever I talked about the fraternity stuff, people say I couldn't picture being a fraternity. I'm like, yeah, me neither. I'm not the personality for it to be into that shit. But you know how they get you, Ian? Hey, you're gonna get girls and you're gonna have fun. It's like when you're 18 years old and never with women, that works. It does. Where you don't fit in. Here's a group of guys that are automatically your friends.
Right.
Like 35, 40 guys that are gonna be your friend. They're not gonna be your friend. They're not gonna be your friend. It's bullshit. Fraternities are largely bullshit.
All bullshit.
I hear once in a while, the service fraternities. I'm like, yeah. Okay, there's probably a few exceptions. A large chunk of them are bullshit. And sororities, a large part are bullshit. But the sororities torture girls as well, from what I heard, in different ways. I won't get into that. They did that stuff as well. All right, well, that was some darkness.
I love darkness.
You want to hear about my near-death experience in the future?
No.
You don't want to hear about it?
Oh, in the future, sure.
Oh, no, you're done with it right now?
I'm done with it right now.